3 of yesterday's recipe. I didn't feel all that swift and time was kind of running late yesterday, so we cut it short. Ended up getting a Chinese takeaway because it was too late to cook everything, and here I am finishing it up today. Sometimes you just run late when you're filming and time gets away from you. Now, we've done our meatloaf with our secret cheese tunnel and the glaze. We've done our potatoes dauphinoise. I have covered both of these things and they are ready to roll in the fridge. That's the cool thing about these kind of dishes. Both the meatloaf and the potato dish can be made a day ahead if you like, to save you time. Say, for instance, if you're having company or get together or something like that, or you just want to make it easier on yourself the next day, you can prepare these dishes the night or the day before, stick them in the fridge, forget about them, and then just put them straight in the oven the next day, which is what we're going to do. So I'm going to continue on with the next 2 dishes of the meal. The next dish is something I grew up with. Again, my mother were one of the army of people. We're very divided in the South about how cornbread should be. And there's an army of people that say it should be all savory, and there's an army that say it should be a bit sweet. I'm in the middle. I like a touch of sweetness, but not too much. This is a pretty rich cornbread recipe. It produces a very moist, fluffy, thick, almost cake-like slices of cornbread, and I love it. If you've never tried cornbread, like if you're English and you've never tried this dish, but you've always been curious about cornmeal and what we do with it down south, like making grits and making cornbread, you need it in your life because you just don't know what you're missing. Cornbread and grits may sound funny to you, but they taste the bomb when you know what you're doing. Now, my friend Deb down the road at Whole Foods had coarse cornmeal. It's sort of like polenta. I suppose if you wanted to, you could make a polenta dish from this. However, I seem to recall that grits were around a long time before I heard about polenta. But who knows? Maybe it's Italy's version of grits. Yeah? So anyways, this is coarse cornmeal. I have some left over here from the last time I made this, so I brought them both out because I don't know exactly how much I'm going to need until I do my thing. We've got coarse cornmeal, and you want to see the grains. They're smaller than couscous, but you can see each individual grain. It's kind of like, well, like coarse sand, I guess. And that's going to give you a mouth feel. I like that. I like to look at the grains individually. I like to feel the grains in my mouth, like when I'm having my grits. And I do mix my cornmeal in my grits recipe with flour to get the kind of texture that I'm after, because I don't want a real crumbly, breaky texture. I want it to like stay in a square when we cut it. You're going to need some baking powder from your baking section of your local grocery store. It'll be where all the nuts, flours, and sugar and all that crap is. Plain white all-purpose flour, not self-rising. The baking powder does that. I'm using sea salt. You can use any kind of salt, but I like rock salt. Get your rock salt or sea salt. This is just plain old vegetable oil. Use any light oil that you like. If you want to use rapeseed, canola, do that. We've got some whole milk. Why? Because I don't like low-fat milk. It can stick it and lose. I don't care what they say to me about low-fat cream cheese and low-fat milk. I don't like the taste of it. I don't have that many dairy products, so the way I look at it is what I'm going to have is going to taste good. Now, this recipe called for buttermilk where we come from, because that's how I like it, with a bit of smack, a bit of tang, as it were, in it. I love buttermilk. Used to drink it straight out of the package when I was young, and it was beautiful. But you know what happened to it? It got harder to find, and it got low fat. It got skimmed, and therefore lost all its flavor, because everyone has to be healthy today. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I like a balance of healthy and not so healthy. I like to be able to sometimes just say, break bad and just say, hey, I'm going to enjoy this meal. And then I'll make up for it tomorrow by having something super healthy, which is what we're going to do. I got a recipe especially for a friend of mine called Raven Moon that we're going to do tomorrow called Yamwoon Sin. But more about that later. Because of the lack of buttermilk here in England, or the UK as it were, I figured, let's see if we can brainstorm, twist this crap around and use sour cream. And lo and behold, it worked and gave the same result as buttermilk. Full fat sour cream, Pete's, not the low fat stuff. Why? Because I am sorry, I don't care. It doesn't taste as good. There are 5 eggs in this, and you use everything. There's a little bit of honey for a touch of sweetness. And I think that's about it, other than what you're going to need a little bit of butter or oil if you like. You can even use a spray if you like to grease your dish that you're making it in. Because we only have 2 large Pyrexes and they're occupied currently by a meatloaf and a potato gratin, I'm going to use Paul's Mama's old baking casserole dish tin. And I'm just going to grease it down with some garlic butter. And that'll give a nice little touch of flavor to the cornbread as well as it bakes. So, stay tuned. This is easy. You pretty much dump everything together. You just got to mix it really well. And I'll show you how to make Old South cornbread. Okay, first we're getting started with our Almondine all-purpose flour. 2 cups. This is my one of only 2 cup measurement containers that I keep in the house. And I'm having to take my time here, but I'm going to measure out 2 cups of flour and put them in my mixing bowl. Everything's multi-purpose in this house. Notice that that's the bowl I also cook my rice in. This is not self-rising flour again. This is just all-purpose regular flour. And it's going to make this recipe is going to look quite rich and indulgent, and it's because it is. We don't have it very often. It makes an almost cake-like cornbread in consistency. It's very moist, thick, and there's a lot of it. It will give you a lot of servings. It's just gorgeous, pretty much. So that's 2.5. 2.5. Sorry about that. 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. And my boy Sue's probably going to take that away from me. You have to be a bit really careful. I'm trying not to poof the flour up into my face, so I'm always so over dramatic. Just don't want that cocaine face, you know what I mean? Like somebody slapped you upside the face with a bag of cocaine. Now we're going in with the cornmeal. And you'll see me use a couple of different containers. I don't know what I'm looking at Paul like that for. Miscommunications, probably. Who knows? And I think I'm going to do 2 of these. And this is just like it's a fairly coarse cornmeal. Back home, y'all can use your cornmeal made for cornbread, but here we gotta use what we've got. So as you can see, this has come from Deb's shop, Deb, from Whole Foods down the road, and it's just coarse cornmeal, and that's fine. You could make polenta with it, but I'm making cornbread. And there goes my second cup of coarse yellow cornmeal. Cornmeal in the States comes in white as well. I love white corn. It's sweet. It's lovely. And if you want to use that, and that's you have access to it where you are, feel free to do so. This is baking soda or baking powder. You're going to use 2 flat tablespoons full of baking powder. This is going to help it to rise and give it that cakey goodness. There are for as many Deep South people like me as there are that live in the world, there's that many damn recipes for cornbread out there. I don't know what we're talking about here, but it looks really fucking important. I did my ponytail myself on this day. Can you tell? It's a bit sloppy looking. Now I'm going in for my rock salt. Sea salt, rock salt, kosher salt. It's good stuff. And I'm using 1 level teaspoon of that. I prefer to work with something like Almondine or some kind of sea salt, cooking salt type thing. I just think it adds a better flavor. I think if you can afford the Almondine, if you can afford the sea salt, go for it, because you don't have to use as much of it, to me, as you do table salt for the same amount of flavor. Now this is a large container of full-fat sour cream. Do not get low fat. If you're going to be making these weekend or power meal or comfort food type dishes like I'm showing you how to make, don't use low-fat doo-doo, please, for the love of God. Now that's a full cupful going in, and it's quite thick and creamy, and you can see that I love it quite a bit. As a kid, I used to eat that shit out of the container with a spoon. I was the same about cottage cheese back in the day when every cottage cheese on the market wasn't low fat, meaning low taste. There's a tiddly little bit left in there, and you can see I'm like, WTF, let's throw it in. Can't hurt. I mean, it is sour cream. One of the foods of the gods. I love sour cream. Sour cream here is my brainstorm for the... I don't know what the hell he just said there, but it must have been funny. It is my brainstorm for replacing my beloved buttermilk, which I can't find where I am, low or regular fat. Now this is whole milk, yes, whole milk. Don't give me none of that skimmed, flat, watery looking blue stuff. Whole milk. And we're using 1.5 cups of whole milk. This tang and creaminess and deliciousness and me flopping frickin' milk all over my person, the sour cream is going to give the richness and the beautiful taste, the buttery, tangy taste of buttermilk. Now I'm using honey here, and I like the subtlety and the body, the taste of honey in a lot of my dishes where I need a touch of sweetness. It's like Heinz. You ever seen Heinz when you're trying to pour Heinz ketchup and you be cobwebs growing on you and shit, turn to bones? It's like you, a skeleton, me waiting for my Heinz to go in the cup. Well, yeah, that's what it's like. And it's 1/3 of a cup of runny honey. Just basically our way of saying that the honey hasn't been set. You know honey is set when it has an opaque and a creamy look about it. We want runny honey, clear honey here. And 1/3 of a cup is what we need. Now, some people like their cornbread a bit sweeter. If you want your cornbread a bit sweeter, add a bit more honey. It won't hurt the recipe. Me, myself, I only like a touch of sweetness. I'm with my mama on this one. I do not like the cornbread to taste like a cake or pound bread. You know what I mean. I just don't want it to be like a sweet. This is a accompaniment to a savory meal. Therefore, I only want a touch of the sweetness from the honey. And the honey provides a beautiful touch of sweetness to me that has more depth and character than regular white sugar. But if you do not have honey in your house, you feel free to use 1/3 of a cup of granular white sugar, like you use making your coffees and teas. Here I have 5 eggs. I'd say they're medium-sized eggs. Not anything ginormous, not anything too small. Just 5 average-sized eggs, yolk and all, whisked up, going in. Making sure I get all the goody. Now, I don't know what the heck that face was for. But I'm checking my recipe and I have jotted some notes down, and it called for a whole cup of oil. Now, I know this sounds like a lot, and this is vegetable oil. You can use canola, you can use linseed, rapeseed, I don't care what you use. You can probably put, a 1/4 cup less than that. But for this case, back home we would use butter, and we'd use plenty of it. This makes a very moist, I guess you could call it a bit dense, but it just makes a very cakey, moist, delicious cornbread. And it sounds like a lot of oil, but this sucker gives you about 12 or 14 servings of cornbread. So it doesn't really add up to that much oil when you think about it divided amongst that many servings. So put it in. It adds a beautiful, rich moistness that's unbeatable. Now I'm putting in loads of cracked black pepper. To me, even though a lot of cornbread recipes don't call for black pepper, I just can't imagine corn anything without black pepper. So I'm putting a lot of it in there. Now, all this shit needs a lot of work. And when I say 5 to you there, I mean it. Take your time. Fold it up. Go underneath. Make sure everything is smooth. And make sure there's no lumps. Now, as you can see, we have a very smooth, almost batter-like consistency. Smooth, I'm telling you there. Like the top of my silly head. I got that flip-top head, though. Now I'm greasing it up, and this is not the kindest pan I've worked with for baking. It took some cleaning after everything was said and done, but it did do a good job with the cornbread. I would recommend, if you have it, using a Pyrex, but both of my large Pyrexes were occupied at this time with other dishes that I was making for this quite extensive meal. And I'm just taking garlic butter here. It lends a touch of flavor. It helps the cornbread slide out better. And you just rub all around. Wherever that cornbread might... I'm sticking my tongue at it, Paul, there. I'm a little rebel. Can you tell? And I look at the consistency of that cornbread batter going in there. You just know that shit's gonna rock your world. And it looks like a fair amount in here. Just wait till we bake it up. It poofs up with the baking powder in it. And you see that the oil that kind of, threw us actually wasn't all that bad. Because, like I say, it makes a lot of cornbread. But in this house, cornbread's very beloved. People come back the next day and they want it, They want another slice of it. Sometimes they want more than one with the meal, like a seconds. So, considering I don't make cornbread probably but about once a month here, I might as well go on and make a goodly amount of it while I'm at it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, though I don't use very much oil in much of my cooking. In this case, it's justified. I'm just evening down the surface now, making sure it's even. You can do that by jiggling it from side to side or by lightly picking it up and setting it down several times. And that'll just give you an even surface. Don't like to waste a drop, me. Look at me. Good grief. Now I've got yucky cornmeal on my finger, but that's looking good and ready to go in the oven. Okay, with all the richness in this meal, and I know, shock and horror at the, because we were both like, I've eaten cornbread, I've made cornbread many times in my life, but as many people as there is that eats cornbread, there's that many people that has a recipe for it, and I was rusty, and so plump for one that I found that looked rich and called for a cup of oil. But then I said to Paul, when you see the size of this daggum cornbread loaf, it isn't that much because it makes a big loaf, and that's good because I have a human Wolverine upstairs, a Hoover for food in the name of Hunter. So anyways, no, man, no.
Am I leaving it all?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, so we're going for this Almondine. But I want to... You're just away, aren't you, over there? Stop taking the tails off. There's nothing wrong with them, is there?
I'll take them off.
Can you hear that out there? It's hailing. What the... Anyway, for the green beans Almondine, which is probably the least rich part of this recipe, good thing we're having Yum Woon Sin tomorrow to make up for it. Everybody will be crawling to the place to have a nap, I suppose, after this. So we're topping and tailing, as it were, if it needs it. I really only want to snap the tops. I suppose we could snap them in half. What do you think would look more elegant? What do y'all think? Half or whole? Anyway.
Answers
green beans.
In the comment section below.
Yeah. Below. So, anyways, we're going to rinse these after we've taken the tops off. You know, just look at the ends and examine the bean. Does it look okay? Cool. If it has a few little spots on it, don't worry about it. Frost and stuff like that does that to vegetables and fruits. It doesn't mean they're not okay to eat. Just make sure you don't put the stems in the wrong damn bowl, huh? Anyway, we're going to do it to all of these, and this is dwarf beans. They look like green beans or snap beans to me. I remember sitting on my grandma's porch doing these by hand when I was a kid, and also doing peas. This is 200 grams. He came home with one bag yesterday, and I looked at him, bless you, and you didn't even have to have it at the end, did you? He came home with one, and I looked at it like, for 4 people, it's vegetables. I gotta have a lot of vegetables, me. I'm the bunny of the family. So anyways, Hunter went down and saved the day and got us another bag. So we just want to take these 400 grams or so of green beans. I imagine you can just make however many you think you can eat. But I like making a bit more than you need because you never know when company will stop by, and you never know when you might just fancy some leftovers or something like that. You never know when Hunter might be over hungry.
Here we go.
Coming back into the kitchen. Mom, I'm hungry. Okay, so after that, we're just going to give them a rinse and let them dry a bit. See, look at that. It's all y'all's fault. Anyway, Paul's like, no, it's your stupid fault because you run your mouth all the time. What the hell happened? Did it jump out?
What is it?
It was a bean.
I don't know.
You about alert as a dead goldfish. Anyway.
About as sharp as a pound of tripe.
After we do this, we're going to blanch the beans. Blanching just means bringing some water, a pot of salted water to a boil, and literally like bathing the vegetables in it for a few minutes and then taking them out and stopping the cooking process with some cold water. I see people using ice baths. Well, for one thing, I ain't got a freezer, and for two, I ain't got no ice. So take your ice bath and use it on yourself, I guess, because I don't have any ice in here and I have to use cold water. If I had some ice, I don't even know if I would give it an ice bath. But anyways, you know, people are hardcore about their opinions in the kitchen, and that's why are they there?
Because you rejected them.
No, I didn't say they couldn't go in. They can mingle.
You did. You showed me up in front of thousands of people saying that I'd done it
There's
wrong.
40-something people watching this channel. Thousands of people. I can hardly think so. Anyway, after this, we're gonna, well, we've got everything going in the oven now. And is it Celsius, centigrade, what the heck ever we go by. I've never, 13 years I've been living here in the UK, and I still go by Fahrenheit. I can go by centigrade if I know what it is, if you get my drift. And we cook, there's like an average medium temperature you do things. You just stole some of mine?
Because you're yapping.
Home's gonna pay later. Anyway, we put everything in. Cornbread. Good thing we got a double oven. Damn. Because we got 3 dishes going at one time. Cornbread's in the top. And the cornbread being a big loaf of cornbread. But that's okay because the kids like it. And Paul likes it left over. It stays good. You can just put it in a zippy lock bag and send the kids to a piece of it to school. You can have it as a snack. In the old days, do you know what people did where I come from? They crumbled that shit into a bowl and poured buttermilk over it and ate it. Yummy. Weird, but yummy. But anyway, well, that was quick work, wasn't it? I don't call them snaps for nothing. We've got them done. I'm going to give them a rinse, shake them off, and then I'm going to take these little guys here, which is where it gets its namesake, Almondine. The green beans are going to be married with almonds. Now, I see all kinds of different versions of this, but I am a big, what's the word when you're for something? I'm a big for toasting seeds and nuts kind of person. Now, my head is just totally emptied. And it adds a lot of flavor. If you got seeds and you're going to put them in a salad, you're going to put them on top of something. Unless they're going to be bacon on top of something, that just adds so much flavor. So I'm going to toast my flaked almonds. They're basically, you can get them in slivers as well for the almondine. Just don't get them whole. They're too big, I think. And this is 150 grams, but I can tell you right now that unless you a squirrel, you ain't going to use a whole bag. So I think about half of the bag, so about 75 grams of these flaked almonds, and I'm going to toast them. Now normally I toast my nuts and seeds in a dry skillet. However, I'm going to attempt today to toast them in garlic butter. Now if I didn't have the garlic butter, you could mince you or smash you a couple cloves of garlic if you wanted that taste, and just brown them a bit in your butter and then introduce your almonds and toast everything. But first we have to pour boiling water in the wok. We're going to use the wok because it's one pan, it's easy. We're going to blanch the beans in the wok, drain them, rinse them in cool water to, you know, stop the cooking process. And we're going to reintroduce that to the range again. Add the garlic butter, toast the almond slivers, and then put the green beans back in, season them, flop them around for a few minutes until they're all good and toasty, and it'll be ready. So it's going to be a pretty simple dish. And I will show you me doing that, and then we will show you the whole big conglomeration of richness and deliciousness, the finished product. Stay tuned. All right, starting the green beans almondine. First, we want to blanch the green beans. we're not going to cook them a long time, but what blanching is it's a quick cooking process of basically any vegetable over a short period of time on high heat. Basically, starting the cooking process on a vegetable in boiling water, boiling salted water. So I'm putting a bit of my Himalayan pink rock salt in there from Poundland. Yay for Poundland, bless their hearts. That's a lot of salt. It lasts me a long time. Now you can see what you're looking for. All those bubbles is coming up to the top. You want it kind of bubbling away. And that's like a medium highish heat under there. And I'm putting in my green beans, which we have just snapped the tips off of where the stems were. And check the beans out, make sure they've been rinsed and they've been checked over to make sure they don't have any bad spots. And I've just left them whole for presentation's sake. I think they look prettier that way for this particular dish. And I'm just poking them around a bit, making sure that they're all immersed in the water. And I'm going to keep my eye on my heat. See how it's bubbling away and steam's coming up? You're going to want to bring your water temperature, because when you put your vegetables in, they're going to be cool and they're going to bring it down. Bring your water temp back up to a boil and let your veg boil for 3 minutes. Then stop the cooking process. Drain them and rinse them in cold water. And then just shake them out and, set them by for the second part of this particular dish. Now, I didn't feel like mincing up garlic. You could do so if you have some in the house and you don't have garlic butter. I had garlic butter to hand, so I put a couple of small blobs in the wok. Not a whole lot, as you can see. And over a medium heat, I'm letting that butter melt, kind of helping it around. And this is the second part of the cooking of the green beans Almondine. Now first, what you're going to see me do, and I don't do very often, is I'm going to take these slivered almonds, and I'm going to do about 2 nice handfuls, which was about half of this bag, and covers the bottom surface of the wok entirely. I'm going to do the slivers of almonds, the slices or whatever, I'm going to do them in this garlic butter over this low medium heat. You don't want it too high because you'll scorch the nuts. What you want to do is toast them. So we're going to toast them in this garlic butter until you start seeing some golden brown coloration. I'm not fiddling with them a lot because I want to keep them on their flat surface down so that they're going to toast. And, every 30 seconds to 45 seconds, I might, mix them around and kind of check to see how the other side of the almonds are doing, like right here. And you see that they're already getting some color, and it's not just from the butter. The colors are starting to change, and it's going to go to like a golden brown, and that's what you're going to be looking for. You'll see it change right before your very eyes. I didn't want to rush you through this process because even though it sounds simple to do something like this, to toast seeds and nuts, and I normally do it in a dry wok or a dry skillet, I toast seeds every time I utilize them. If I'm making a couscous or a glass noodle salad, I toast peanuts, I toast seeds. It wakes up the flavor. It tenfolds the flavor. Now that I've got my golden brown appearance to my almond slices, I'm reintroducing my blanched whole green beans into the skillet, and I'm going to toss everything around. The almonds do want to stick together. There's still a little bit of water clinging to the green beans, which helps it move about. And I'm just making sure that the green beans get some butter on them. Paul helping me out by bringing me a spoon that actually works there. The other was fine for just sliding things around, but not much for scooping. So now I can kind of bring the almonds around from the bottom and get everything mixed up the best I can. Like I say, they want to stick together, so you have to keep mixing. And of course you're going to want to season this, which I'll be doing shortly, and that's going to help with the flavors. But this dish had a very nice flavor, I must say. Once it was finished, we really enjoyed it. The beans were tender, but they were still a bit crispy, or tender crisp, and really nice. Now there's some rock salt in there to taste, to your personal taste. You know, after a few minutes, pick up a bean and check it like you'll see me do. And there's some ground fresh cracked black pepper in there. I always crack my own black pepper if I can, because there's so much difference between the stuff that's already been ground up and's been sitting drying in a canister for God knows how long somewhere. Now what you see me doing here is you see me dribbling some water out of a little bowl from my clean hand into the wok. Now that's going to facilitate a bit of steaming action for us, which is going to help the green beans along in their cooking, because you don't want them so crunchy that it feels like you're out in the field with the horses eating grass. So you want your beans to be, well, a bit crunchy but also tender at the same time. You'll know what I mean when you taste it. And as you can see, introducing some more waters has created a lot more steam. And that steam that water's created is facilitating the cooking of the green beans a bit further. We've done some cooking when we blanched them, but we want to take it a bit further in here with the wok. Now all the yummy flavors of the almonds and the butter are going into the green beans, and the flavors are marrying up. And it turns out to be a really nice dish because it looks elegant and it tastes elegant, but it's light at the same time. And I'm kind of pinching a green bean to see, and now I'm tasting it, and that's what you should do. I don't taste my food often when I'm cooking. I don't know why. I guess I don't feel I need to after all these years, but in this case, you might want to check to see if your green bean is to your liking. It won't hurt the dish if you want to keep it in there a few minutes longer. You just want it tender crisp, though. Don't cook your green beans till they're smooshy, because ain't nobody got time for that shit. Now I'm putting in some of those durkey, as we call them back in the States, or here, just fried onions, usually found in the salad section of the store. Couple of small palmfuls of those, just because they taste nomalicious on everything they touch. And I have turned the heat off because I don't want to cook this dish any further. So I add those little onions for a bit of crunch and a bit of flavor at the end. And this is the entire finished meal. Green beans almondine, elegant, light, and tasty. Cornbread, big enough and fluffy enough to fit a king. Potato gratin or dauphinoise, and glazed meatloaf, all of which was delicious. The star of the meal to me were the potatoes, but I think everybody had their own favorite. I love y'all very much. And here we are with the kids refusing to be in part of the video, but I have had requests to show you how it's served, and there you go. And that's a lovely, comforting weekend type family meal that I can guarantee you everyone will enjoy. Oh dear. I love you all. I smooch you all. Sparkles, rainbows, and all that good shit. See you later. Wow.